Hi, everyone. My name is Matt DeFanis. I am broker-owner of RE/MAX Realty Associates with offices in Champaign, Mahomet, and Monticello, Illinois. And this is a COVID-19 update on the evening of March 20th, 2020. This is just a few hours after Illinois Governor Pritzker has issued an executive order that is ordering residents of the state of Illinois to stay at home. With that order taking effect tomorrow, Saturday at 5 p.m., it has generated, understandably, tons of questions that have been swirling around from our clients to their agents within our firm, from agents to me in the firm in terms of what that means for operations in the industry. So I have lots of information to provide to you that will answer a slew of the frequently asked questions, because my phone started ringing about 2 seconds after the governor was done speaking. So this is an Illinois executive order in response to COVID-19. That was the executive order that was issued at the same time that the governor spoke on live television this afternoon. That executive order has various exemptions. So as you might imagine, if you're a frontline healthcare professional or a first responder, of course, there are exemptions for that. There are various other exemptions for, quote, essential businesses and operations. So within that category of exemptions, you have financial institutions. That includes banks and consumer lenders. It also includes title companies. There's a separate category of exemptions for professional service providers. That includes legal services, insurance services, real estate services, including appraisal and title services. And I want to talk about how we are handling this within our office. So what that means is every member of the cast of characters that's needed to transact and successfully close a real estate transaction is permitted to operate under the law. It doesn't mean every single one of those cast members is choosing to operate, or if it's a very small company, is able to operate in the current environment, but all of those types of service providers can operate. So here's what we're doing within our company. Effective at the close of business today on Friday, we are keeping our office lobbies locked. Those are going to be closed to customers, very much like what you're seeing most bank branch locations doing. We are still open for business, and we are still at this time fully staffed in our Champaign office and at least partially staffed in our other offices. Part of the reason we're able to do that is because we have encouraged all of our agents to work from home. So the number of people in our Champaign office building has decreased so dramatically that our staff, by their own consensus, are able to report to work and be totally safe, adhering to those CDC recommended social distancing guidelines. So we will still have a full complement of staff here. They're going to be doing the work that they do to help ensure that people that count on us to get their real estate transactions closed are able to do that. But that does mean that if you're a customer, or if you're dropping a document off or a rent check off, you may come to our office door with the lights on during normal business hours and office staffers visible across the lobby and the door locked. Please bear with us. We're trying to minimize the number of cases where we've got people coming in from outside and sharing the airspace with our staffers. We have a document drop slot. We have them at all of our offices. In our Champaign office, there's a drop slot right in the front door itself. And if you happen to show up with a loose piece of paper or a check and you haven't planned for dropping that off without a receptionist, there will be an envelope station where you'll be able to put it in an envelope, label who it's to, drop it through the secure document drop slot, and go on. Now, our agents and our clients still have full access to our building. Just know that customers will only have access with an agent escorting them. So if you're meeting an agent for an appointment and you're 2 minutes early, or your agent is 2 minutes late, you may be in the parking lot locked out of the building for a couple of minutes. Be patient, bear with us. Your agent can still provide you, our clients, to full access to our office, to our restrooms, to our coffee, all of that stuff. Our lobby will simply be closed, so you can't just have anyone walking in from the street. So how we're handling pending transactions under these unprecedented circumstances? Well, generally speaking, if you have a home under contract already, whether you're a buyer or seller, generally speaking, keep calm, carry on. As I said at the top, every cast member needed to get your transaction closed is still able to work under the current circumstances. If you're just now getting something under contract, or if you sense that there are timeframes that may not make sense given the most recent developments, look at allowing reasonable deadlines, reasonable closing deadlines, reasonable inspection deadlines, reasonable financing deadlines. So closing deadlines, I have had at least one prolific lender in our market request 60-day closings. During off-peak seasons, 30-day closings are often possible, but you have to allow for some extra time. While there is no disaster right now in the mortgage underwriting and closing pipeline, it is only prudent to allow some margin under the unusual circumstances. If you're writing an offer, allow a little more time, a little more lead time for closing than you maybe usually would. You might also consider being a little bit more lenient with the financing related deadlines. Inspection deadlines, same thing. Remember, those home inspectors are small business owners and folks that are used to going out and doing their one-man inspection show, even if they've got a cough or a cold because they're doing it by themselves. Under the current environment, they really need to stay home. And that means that you've got to be ready for, as happened to me with one of my transactions a few days ago, buyer's agent had to swap home inspectors at the last minute, schedule it all over again, get into the queue for somebody else. So you might allow a little bit of extra time. And if you're a listing agent or a seller, be prepared to give the buyer and the buyer's agent a little bit of extra time. So if you're under contract now, at this time, there really is no cause for concern. Everybody and everything that is needed to get you successfully over the finish line to closing is still very much up and running. With respect to closings, we need to make sure that we are minimizing the number of people jammed into a closing room. Now, in other parts of the country, you don't ever have the buyers and sellers showing up in person in the first place. But here, customarily, you would see closings that look like a jam-packed Thanksgiving dinner table, which is a conference table in some title company closer's office. That means that conference table is happening in somebody's workspace and somebody's airspace. And commonly in our closings, that's going to be buyers and sellers. So that may be 4 or more people. Seller's attorney, buyer's attorney, seller's realtor, buyer's realtor, lender, title company closer. That's a lot of people. You can easily end up with more than 10 people jammed around a table. And if you're a title company closer, that means you got 10 people in your office who are coming in, sharing airspace with you, and then a new set of 10 people every hour on the hour. That is the poster child example of what we cannot have happening in the current environment. So with that being said, the title companies need to ensure that we have all non-essential people not showing up at closings. So as the realtors are fond of saying, if we do our job correctly, we are extremely non-essential. If you've ever seen a realtor cracking a joke at the end of the closing table, it's usually because they've done all their work prior to that day and they don't have anything to stress about. Realtors are not going to be showing up at closings. To the greatest extent possible, we want buyers and sellers not showing up at closings. For sellers, that is super easy. For ages, it has been a very simple matter to execute a limited power of attorney with your attorney, whether you're here in town to do that or whether it's happening remotely, not a big deal. We can provide for it either way. Then some key documents are getting signed by the sellers in advance of closing. The attorney is then authorized to sign the various documents that don't get produced until the closing on behalf of the seller. Understand, if you're a seller, that does not mean your attorney is making any decisions without you. It simply means the attorney is authorized to sign without you, but the attorney is not signing anything that you have not approved. So don't worry that you're suddenly allowing some loose cannon to run away with your money or your sale. Now, on the buyer side, it's a little bit more complicated because if the buyer is obtaining financing, the buyer has a mountain of documents to sign. At least one lending partner that I deal with frequently has indicated that their mortgage company is already working on substantially streamlining the number of closing documents that can be electronically signed by the buyers prior to the closing. That will leave a much reduced stack, and that reduced stack can, under the right circumstances, be signed via power of attorney. In other words, buyer and their attorney can go over the whole stack of documents, but the attorney can be the one that shows up at the closing to actually sign the last few that weren't eligible for electronic signature. There are also a handful of closing documents that must be notarized. And right now, a typical notary workflow is one of the only remaining links in this chain that requires being done in person. After all, the whole point of a notary is for a notary public to be looking at you across the table, face to face, verify that you are who you say you are by substantiating it with a photo ID, and then vouching for the authenticity of your signature. Well, that's a face-to-face part that is now something we want to minimize in the current environment. So with that being the case, we actually have a new bill being introduced. It's a bipartisan bill in the United States Senate, just introduced yesterday, March 19th. Senator Mark Warner, who's a Democrat from Virginia, and Kevin Kramer, who is a Republican from North Dakota, introduced Senate Bill 3533, which is the Securing and Enabling Commerce Using Remote and Electronic, the acronym for that being SECURE, Notarization Act of 2020. So if that becomes law, it may further streamline the ability to authenticate those signatures all in a purely online workflow. But for right now, there are still a few documents that will require being signed in front of a notary. Watch for updates on that because that could change very quickly. For some of our clients and customers, real estate is now non-essential. They either don't have to buy or sell, period, or they don't have to do it right this minute when it feels like there's so much shifting beneath our feet. We totally get that. For other people, this is absolutely an essential service. We've still got people who are reporting for new jobs in the community. We got people who have already signed contracts to sell a home and will be homeless if they cannot get under contract and close on their purchase as well. So for other people, this could not be a bigger deal because our housing market and the real estate professionals that help make it move are the difference between a homelessness crisis or not. So rest assured, every cast member that is needed is still available to continue working. Having said that, our top priority has always been and continues to be the health and the safety of our staff, our agents, and the clients that we serve. All of our ongoing operations are happening now with strict adherence to social distancing protocols. All of our staff are still able to come in, and in the Champaign office are choosing to come in and work at their normal workstations because we have reduced the number of people in the building so much that there is no issue complying with all of the social distancing protocols. Anyone, whether it's a staff member, an agent, or a client who has symptoms or who knows that they have had exposure to COVID-19 is not going to be reporting to work here and is not going to be going out doing showings, whether it's an agent or a client. But anyone who does require our services during these unprecedented times, just know we've got your back. We are here to continue to deliver on what you need. If you currently have property listed with us, please, if you've not already done so, consult with your listing agent so you can discuss whether your home should remain on the market. And if it does make sense, or if it's urgently needed that your home remain on the market, you're able to talk through the steps that could be taken to minimize any health risks associated with it. As a company, we've already shut down any open houses until further notice because those pose a totally unnecessary exposure risk. But individual showings, it's a much easier risk to mitigate. In fact, I was doing showings, multiple showings with multiple clients just today, and sellers increasingly will have a hand sanitizing station and shoe covers or a sign asking for shoes to be removed right inside the front door. Talk to your listing agent if you need to strategize on how best to make sure the risk is kept at an acceptable level. Thank you for watching. We will continue to adapt and respond to circumstances none of us has ever lived through before, and we're going to do so with the health and safety of our staff, our agents, and our clients as our top priority, while ensuring that those people who count on the real estate market continuing to be up and running and functioning, that we are able to maintain that for you. Thanks so much for watching. Please stay safe, everybody, and we look forward to working with you as circumstances enable us to do.